everybody. I wanted to just start off by saying I have been talking about this talk to friends of mine, family, colleagues. I had class last night and I was telling them all about it. And I said there's one of two ways this talk is going to go today. We have two options and that's it. It's either going to be this epic success and everyone's going to cheer and I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat my mac and cheese that I plan on. It's going to be great. Or it's going to be a massive failure. There's nowhere in between right now. And I hope you play along with me. We'll see if it's one or the other because I realize that's kind of how I've been living my life lately, is everything I do will either be an epic success or a massive failure. There's no, oh, it's gonna be fine. So here we go. I want to start off really by telling you a story about camp. So I worked at a summer camp. It was a startup. You can call this a startup, I think. It was before the whole girls that code thing that's going on that I'm fully behind. But it was teaching girls that it's okay to be nerdy and a girl at the same time. So this is a couple years ago that this is happening. We had classes in lab science, engineering, building, development, all those amazing things, but also things like spa science, things to make for your bathtub, make your own makeup, all of those great things. I taught lab science, and it was the best job, hands down, that I've ever had. Now, I'm teaching lab science. I'm the first person this woman has ever hired. Very exciting. Then she hires me to work year-round. Like, I have a job now. I went from being an actor to having like an actual job where I had a job year-round, and then I became her first full-time employee. Now, I don't do admin well. I'm going to be really serious about that. I am an actor, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. Admin is not one of my strong skills. But I learned how to do it because I absolutely needed this job. I didn't want to be a poor actor anymore. So I learned how to do it, and apparently I got really good at it because she told me after my third summer that I was no longer allowed to teach. She needed me to do this admin during the summer. So here I am in this conundrum. I have this great job that's paying me really well for the first time in my life in New York City, making a decent living, but doing something I hated. So I was in school for art history at the time. I started applying to a few paid internships for the summer. Now, paid internships in a nonprofit, in a museum. You can imagine what I was probably making with a paid internship. You're laughing because you know how bad this probably is. So I'll just put in perspective for you. I got one of the paid internships for the summer. The woman told me that ran the camp that if I took this internship, there was no going back. I couldn't go back. My job was gone. So the paid internship, which ended in August, was paying me $300 a week in New York City, and at the camp, I was making $1,000 a week. So I had this moment of, yeah, of course, like, keep your job, Jen. What are you doing? $300 a week before taxes will kill you. But I didn't really know what to do at that moment because I had been the poor actor and I didn't want to be a poor museum educator. So it was a third of what I was making, again, just to reiterate these bad decisions that I was about to potentially make. It might be a terrible decision for a couple reasons. I'm a big list maker. So the first was there was no guarantee of further work. This job ended in August, and it was over. So I didn't know where I was going next. The next was this idea of a museum education field bubble. So I had been an actor for a long time. There's a lot of actors. There are very few parts. And as you can imagine, you do a lot of unpaid work. So I was leaving a field with a huge bubble, going into a field with a huge bubble, with a lot of museum educators and very few jobs. And again, just to point this out, I live in New York City. You hemorrhage money when you bleed. When you breathe, it's gone. So safety to me equals death, however. Safety can be a lot of great things. Safety does things for you to actually breathe, to exist. Now, safety, playing it safe specifically, offers no risk. You just do what you keep doing because you know how it's done. It's easy. You just keep doing what you're doing because you know how it's done. And you keep getting paid. Simple. But I said safety equals death to me. So safety is stagnancy to me. You lose your creativity because you're sitting here and you go into this autopilot mode and you just continue on and you carry on. So why do anything different? You know how it's done. You keep making money how it's done. So why change it up? Now, that kind of loss of creativity really leads to this office space mentality. Now, you do just enough not to get fired, because why would you do anything different? You know how it's done. You keep getting paid for how it's done. Why change it up? There's a way to get out of this, though. There's a way to get out of this in a safe space and make all of the crazy risks happen and fail and do all of these terrible things, but it really doesn't hurt you. You can get out of your comfort zone by taking some improv classes. Now, I've been doing improv for 16 years, teaching, performing, the whole 9 yards. So let's talk about what improv is and what it isn't. Now, what it isn't, it is not on stage by yourself with a microphone trying to woo an audience telling jokes. It's not that. Improv is working together with a team. You are communicating, you are talking to other people, you are existing with other people. You're not doing it yourself. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of improv this whole time. Now, ways that it helps you get out of your comfort zone. Flexibility. You pop up on stage, I say in a class with coworkers, with people you know, people you don't know, and you have to figure it out as you go along. You can walk in there with an agenda. You can walk in with tons of things on your mind. But the problem with that is you're up there with another person who is also walking up there with an agenda, with other things on their mind, and trying to get what they want as well. I tell people to avoid the awkwardness all the time in class. Now, awkwardness is really, really great in real life because no one's really watching you. It might be one person. When you're in an improv class, there might be 10 people watching that awkward moment, so you kind of want to get out of it as fast as possible. So you just have to figure it out as you go along. Now, you're also learning to be nimble. You have to just roll with it. You have to just listen to this other person, figure out what they're trying to get across, and get across what you're doing as well. And again, this is a safe space. This isn't the real world. So these two things put together, they force you to be creative. You are trying things you would never try out in your job. You are trying something you would never try out in your relationship. Because when the scene is over, when the conversation is over, everything's over. You move on. Now, the next thing that you actually do with improv is you actually have to listen to one another. It's crazy. We all come into conversations very agenda-oriented. We know exactly what we're going to say, how we're going to say it, what we want. So we say X, Y, Z. It doesn't matter how anyone responds to us because we know what needs to get across. You can't do that in improv, actually. There's a big difference between listening and hearing. Now, I was teaching a group of engineers. This is actually my mortification example that I give. And the whole company flew in between New York and Houston, came to New York City, and there's this woman, and she starts the scene, the conversation off, and she's dancing. She goes, "Dad, I can't wait to be on American Bandstand." And the gentleman in the scene with her goes, yeah, and he's like reading a paper. Keeps going on. She's talking about dancing. He's kind of ignoring her, kind of being silly. And at the end, she's like, "Dad, do you think my dancing is good enough to be on American Bandstand?" And he ends it by saying, "Gosh, this is the strangest strip club I've ever been to." And the whole room dropped. And I said, "And that's time." And we all applauded, and we did the reflection. And I said, "Okay, let's talk about that. So why'd you make that choice? Just curious." And he went on to say, "Yes, well, you told me whatever choice I make is a good choice. Like making a choice, taking initiative." And I said, "Yes, anything you do, making a good choice, really great, super proud of you. But you went weird because she's your daughter. So I'm just curious why that happened." And he looked at me and said, "She is not my daughter. What are you talking about?" And everyone in the room said, "She called you dad twice." Now, I've never seen a grown man crumble so quickly because his CEO was there, and like this is work. Like HR is there, like all this business is going on. And he truly didn't listen. He didn't pay attention. He was that guy. So I tell people, don't be that guy or that girl. You have to focus when you're up here. You have to focus when you're in a scene, in a class, in a conversation. Because in real life, the stakes are high, but on a stage in front of people you don't know or do know, that's an opportunity to flex that muscle, that listening muscle that we don't really work on as adults. So teamwork. Like I said, you're not up there by yourself. You have to work together. It's a big thing in improv, and it's two things that go together. It's the idea of the yes and, but not the yes but. Let me give you an example of that. So say you're in a meeting and you say, "I'm really interested in making this green." A yes and to that is yes, and it should be light green. Awesome. Took the green, went higher with it, got more specific. The opposite is not no. The opposite is this. It's, "Let's make this green." Yes, but I think it should be light green. You see the difference there? It's taking an idea and elevating it and adding to it versus taking an idea and saying, "My idea is better." Yeah, I've heard you, that's fine, but light green, ugh, hello, the better color. And now apply that to every day. It's really easy to say, yeah, I heard you, but I think this. It's really hard to say, yes, I heard you, and I can add to it. So I challenge people in the next 24 hours, try one yes and try one yes but. Just see the difference and feel the difference and watch the person's reaction. Even try it with the same person. Go home, try it with your wife, your dog, your kid, anything like that. And you will see an actual reaction with this person. Now, this develops a sense, well, of course, no no's. That's not even really sure why I put that in there, because no's shutting down the idea in the end. Now, like I was saying, this develops a sense of empathy. You're learning how other people feel. You can role play when you're in improv. You can roll on up there, put up a client situation. You can roll on up there, be a bad client. Be a bad salesperson. Be a bad executive. Be a bad employee. When it's over still. It doesn't affect you in the everyday. It's over. You can try it on for size, see how it fits, and then let it go. Now, all this adds up to this idea of failure. I heard a couple other people mentioning failure in their talks, and it's such this huge thing. We don't want to fail. We're afraid of failing. It's terrifying. We're adults. We don't want to lose our jobs, lose our relationships, our friends, all of those things. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that if you're trying not to fail, you actually never succeed. But the bigger thing with failure, especially in an improv class, say you do all these things. Say you listen, you practice great teamwork, you are paying attention, you're yes-anding all over the place. The scene can still bomb horribly. About 80% of improv is really, really bad, and you see that consistently. It ends, and you're like, that was awkward, I never want to repeat that. But like I've been saying, when it ends, it's over. You don't have to deal with it anymore. If you fail, great, you move on and you fail again. You keep failing. I actually have taught this game to every single group that I have ever worked with, and it's called Zip Zap Zop. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Some of you might know it because it's a camp game for a lot of people. They remember it as kids. The thing is, it's taught a lot of times with outs. So you make a mistake and you're out. You make a mistake and you can't play anymore. It's oftentimes also taught with you make a mistake and the mistake is ignored. And you can't do it anymore and you just keep going and no one says anything so you don't want to draw attention to it. Now how I learned it is you make a mistake and you call someone out on it and it's acknowledged. So one person makes a mistake and everyone makes it. So when mistakes are made in this game, you all put your hands in your hips, and everyone on the count of 3 will go, auga. Now, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous, right? You're hip thrusting, you're saying a funny noise, all that stuff is happening. But the reason you do that is because you want to call attention to it. You're worried more about the funny noise and the hip thrust, and it just goes away. And you worry more about the silly thing you've done than the mistake. And you make so many mistakes that it's no longer a real thing. You don't care. So you're doing what you should be doing with errors. You're just rolling with it. So when next time you make a mistake, do what Taylor Swift says, shake it off. So I leave you with 2 things, 2 quick things. Life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Now this was said to me by my mentor when I was trying to decide what to do about summer camp. Had no clue. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to be a poor museum educator again. And she said, Jen, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. I'm like, what does that mean? This doesn't help me. It's fortune cookie, thank you. But I realized that it's true because I didn't want to be the poor actor, but I also didn't want to be the admin person. I didn't want to do the business aspect of things. So I just figured it out. I threw everything at the wall and I saw what stuck. And I'm not saying you guys should quit your jobs. I'm not saying you should do any of that stuff. But what I'm saying is practice taking risks that could end terribly in a safe environment. Why not just try it? Then it fails, you fail, and you move on. It's not real life. Now I said to you, I leave you with 2 things, and I said this will either be an epic success or an epic failure. So the last thing I'm going to leave you, I want everybody to stand up. They tell you not to do this stuff. Stand up because it draws attention away from things. Everybody up, everybody up. Yep, I see you. It is not television. Yep, you know you're going to put your hands in your hips, and we are going to awooga. We're going to awooga. Everyone needs to know how this feels. So that's how it's spelled. If anyone ever wants to spell it out, don't forget the hip thrust. So on the count of 3, loud and proud, guys. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Awooga.